How's it going, guys? Welcome to part 3 of my Rainbow Six Siege operator guide, and today the operator we're going to be covering is Ash. So let's get right into it and take a look at Ash's loadout. To start, let's take a look at Ash's primary selection. So the first gun I'm going to be talking about is Ash's G36 carbine. In the game, the G36C is a weapon which is unique to Ash, and it does boast pretty respectable damage, on par with the MP7 and the 416 carbine, all of which roughly boast about 500 damage per second. On top of this, the G36C also has extremely good recoil and is thus really good for playing Ash as a long-range skirmisher, or as an alternative to the R4C if you can't handle the recoil on that weapon. Like most of the weapons that do moderate damage in Rainbow Six Siege, the G36C is highly customizable and has the option to take almost every single attachment there is in the game. For newer players, I definitely recommend taking the following attachments on your G36C. Firstly, a muzzle brake for the barrel of your gun. Secondly, the vertical grip for reduced recoil. And thirdly, the ACOG sight for long-range distance engagements. The reason I recommend these three attachments for new players is because it allows Ash to engage enemies at both long, medium, and close range. The gun already has pretty good recoil at medium range and close range, so improving distance recoil on the G36C effectively makes it a pseudo-sniper. While I consider all weapon attachments to be equally viable in Rainbow Six Siege, I've also found a lot of success with the Suppressor on this weapon due to the extremely easy to manage recoil. In Rainbow Six Siege, the second weapon which Ash can select as her primary is the R4C. The R4C is one of my favorite rifles in the game due to its balance of accuracy, rate of fire, and damage per bullet. The R4C boasts the 5th highest DPS at medium range in the game, surpassing even Hibana's Bearing 9 machine pistol. In terms of the attachments that are available to the R4C, I definitely recommend taking either the muzzle brake or the compensator, as well as the vertical grip and the ACOG sight, though the sight is more dependent on your preference. Personally, I have also found a lot of success with the suppressor on the R4C, though I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to players who are not confident in their aim and in their recoil control, as attaching the suppressor to the barrel of your gun severely reduces the damage your weapon makes and doesn't compensate for any recoil at all. Between the G36C and the R4C, I definitely recommend taking the R4C over the G36C in most scenarios, though the G36C does excel at long-range engagements, whereas the R4C's superior damage and rate of fire make it a great gun for rushing and pushing aggressively. So let's take a look at Ash's secondary selection. In Rainbow Six Siege, Ash has to choose between either taking the Colt 45 MUSOC or the USG. If you've seen my Pulse video, you know my answer is that both are good, but the MUSOC excels at body shots and center mass shooting if you're in a pickle, whereas the USG is more of a headshot gun, as it has superior capacity but worse recoil and damage. But all of this doesn't matter if you're accurate and can score that good old headshot. As always, I'd recommend taking a laser sight on your handguns, as you're usually not running with them out all the time, and your choice of muzzle brake or suppressor, depending on whether or not you want to use your pistol to shoot out cameras or to shoot people. So let's talk about Ash's gadget selection. In Rainbow Six Siege, you have the decision to make between breaching charges and smoke grenades on Ash. In my opinion, I'd recommend taking the smoke grenades over the breaching charges, as you already have breaching charges with your primary gadget, and as smoke grenades are more useful in more situations as they can obscure team movement and as they also make Ash a self-reliant bomb carrier. I will however say that taking the breaching charges isn't an entire waste on Ash, as you can play her vertically in the way you would Buck, as combined with her primary gadget she would get a total of 5 breaching charges. So the gadget which is unique to Ash is actually pretty underwhelming. Effectively, it is a 2-shot breaching charge launcher, which is useful for breaking walls quickly and easily from a distance, and also useful for countering castle barricades. On some maps, it is also useful for opening up unique angles which attackers usually won't be able to see through. But I would argue that impact grenades are more useful than Ash's gadget because they have a larger area of effect and can deal more damage to enemy players, and in addition to this, they are also instant when making holes in walls, whereas Ash's charges have a sound cue right before exploding. On top of this, Ash's charges are less effective than impact grenades in my opinion, as they can be shot down by ADS, because Jaeger is a defending operator, and they are also extremely unreliable at destroying barbed wires. Another application you can consider when using Ash's gadget would be firing her grenade launcher at deployable shields, which are set up in really good locations, though you should be aware that this can easily be countered by having Bandit shock the shield with one of his batteries, as this will destroy the charge upon contact with the shield. So now that we've talked about the loadout of Ash, let's move on to some positioning and tactics that you can do with her. So one of the simplest and most Call of Duty-esque tactics, which Ash is effective at, is simply just rushing the objective straight off the bat. If you're a quick shot and you know unexpected and expected angles where people like to enter, it's sometimes a good idea to enter the building as fast as possible and push the objective with your superior firepower. Because of Ash's 3-speed status, her extremely small hitbox, her 5th highest DPS gun in the game, and her impact grenades, Ash makes a particularly effective rusher, as she is both hard to hit and hits back hard as well. So some advice I could give on entering the building with Ash would be to go from an angle which the attackers don't particularly have covered, like enter from a side which no one usually would go through, as this can really throw off defenders and make your rush that much more effective. On top of this, saving your drone in the drone phase is particularly effective when rushing as Ash, as you can exploit weaknesses in their defense. So for example, if they forgot to reinforce an important wall, you can simply Ash charge it open and rush in and kill everybody from there. An attachment to consider when rushing with Ash would be the Suppressor, as you won't leave behind any bullet trails and you'll make reduced noise when you do enter the room and start shooting it up, which can sometimes really work in your advantage, as the enemy won't really know where you're coming from and they might not even really hear you in some scenarios. The second tactic which deserves mention with Ash would be using her as a sniper or a long-range operator, or even just support for long-range operators. The G36C, when combined with the proper assortment of attachments, can effectively become a mediocre hitting DMR. The recoil is so easy to manage that you'll be able to snipe people from long range. Because of the way Ash's breaching charges work, she can stand on a rooftop and merely just open up the windows with her breaching charges. This way no one really needs to shoot down the barricades and waste bullets, and the defenders inside don't really have a warning about when the windows are going to open. Another tactic which you should always consider when playing Ash is playing her vertically. She already comes with 2 breaching charges, but if you take the 3 more regular breaching charges she has, then she can effectively do what Buck does. She can open up the floor from directly above the defenders and take out any gadgets or people that are causing your team trouble. Though she is less effective than Buck, as this is less instant, she can still be handy in a pinch if you didn't bring a Thatcher on certain objectives, as you can shoot bandit charges from destructible floors above, and this can be really handy at opening up garages and other objectives which have reinforced exterior walls. Given that attack is more fluid and straightforward than defense, as you're merely reacting to how the defenders want to play, Ash excels in a variety of roles and is thus an operator that your team can always use. Like Sledge, Ash is versatile in that she can act as an objective rusher and an entry fragger, but is also flexible as she can support other operators in varying roles and objectives. Given her loadout and speed, she is a fantastic starter op, and her life isn't as important to your team if you get spawn peeked or die early. So long as Ash gets to trade with an enemy, she has done her job. So I would definitely recommend her to newer players that are just starting the game. So thank you for joining me for part 3 of my operator guide. I do have a lot more coming, but I am pretty busy with school at the moment. Some more is on the way, but it's just not going out at the rate I'd like it to. But thanks for watching.